Welcome to Straight from the Source, a podcast from FMOL Health. Here, healthcare is a verb. It's how we show up every day, boldly, joyfully, and with great love. Our goal is simple, to bring you connection, clarity, and context, straight from the experts you can trust. Because healthcare isn't just something we provide, it's something we do. Today, we're sharing a story about one man's extraordinary fight for life and the community that rose up to meet it. It's a story of quick action, unwavering faith, and a recovery that inspired an entire health system. And by the end, you'll understand why Jason Moore's walk out of the hospital left everyone cheering. On an ordinary Sunday morning, Jason Moore walked into work at FMOL Health, Our Lady of the Lake, just like he had hundreds of times before. Jason worked security at the hospital. It was his job to protect others. But that morning, it was Jason who would need saving. This is the story of a team's quick action, a family's faith, and a remarkable recovery. Jason and Mark McGee have been colleagues and friends for close to 30 years. They began their careers with the East Baton Rouge Parish Sheriff's Office in the 1990s, before Mark left to join the security team at Our Lady of the Lake. Years later, Jason joined him. Jason and Mark were both working the night shift when Mark, the night shift supervisor, got a text from his friend.
The night was pretty much almost over. We had made it through like 75% of the night. Jason had got to the point that he was feeling bad, and he texted me. He was asking me, can he take some downtime because he wasn't feeling well? I was like, yeah, okay. One of my rebuttals might have been, yeah, go in the office and I'll catch up with you later. I made sure I went to find him before I left. I scanned the whole room and I didn't see Jason, but all of a sudden I caught a glance of someone's feet. I went over there thinking, like, man, what's this? I found Jason laying face first on the floor. So I quickly got down on my knees to take a good look at him. And as I looked at him, I realized he was very pale. He was purple. He was purple as my gloves that I wear in my pocket. I turned him over, checked for a pulse, realized that we got a situation here. It just went bad fast.
Mark ran out of the security office to call for a code blue, the hospital's alert that someone is having a heart attack. He then ran back and tried to save the life of his coworker and friend.
I worked on it probably maybe 2 hard minutes before someone came run around the corner.
Dr. Mitchell Feigley was part of the emergency team that responded. Dr. Feigley is an emergency medicine physician and is no stranger to code blue alerts. Normally, those alerts are for patient rooms. This one was for the security desk.
They actually called it code blue in the hospital. Typically that's for a patient room, but they called it to the security desk. And so whenever we got there, we saw that Jason was on the ground, and they were kind of just starting compressions for doing CPR on him. Saw that he was in an abnormal rhythm that we call ventricular tachycardia. It's kind of one of the most common causes of sudden cardiac death. And one of the kind of most important things with that would be to shock him into a normal rhythm. And so we were able to perform the defibrillation, get a breathing tube in, all while he was on the ground, kind of tucked up against the corners. But then we were able to get a stretcher in there and get him up to the emergency room to continue care up there.
Team members were able to get a pulse, but Jason's heart had stopped beating for 9 minutes. Jason's wife, Sabrina, remembers getting the phone call that no one ever wants to receive.
I got the phone call Sunday morning from John that worked day shift, the security response officer. John had called me and he told me that I needed to get to the hospital. I was like, why? What's wrong? And he's like, they found Jason in the office. And I'm like, well, what's wrong with him? And he's like, he had no pulse. My heart just dropped because I didn't know. So we loaded up and we came to the hospital and they began telling us what happened. And the day is just a blur.
After the emergency procedures were done, Jason was taken to the intensive care unit, unconscious, but still fighting. Dr. Benjamin Deaton was the critical care physician on call that day.
There was concern that he had had a heart attack, and he went to our cardiac catheterization lab. While they didn't find evidence of an acute obstruction, they did find that he did have some issues with his heart, but there was not a procedure for them to do at that time. And at that point, he was then brought to the intensive care unit. He had been placed on a ventilator in the emergency department, and we received him, and he was in critical condition.
Dr. Benjamin Deaton and his colleagues performed a bronchoscopy, a procedure where physicians place a small camera down the breathing tube to look directly into the lungs. He didn't find any major obstructions, but did notice a fair amount of blood-tinged secretions, a result from the CPR Mark performed, and an indication that it was good quality CPR. Once Jason was stabilized, the ICU team focused on protecting his heart and his brain.
The priorities of care for a person who has suffered a cardiac arrest is to make sure that their hemodynamics, so specifically things like their blood pressure and their heart rate, are stable. We also want to make sure that the breathing is okay. His blood pressure was doing okay. So we tried to make sure that those factors were all stable. In addition to that, when a person suffers a cardiac arrest, we also worry that they haven't had enough blood and oxygen to their brain and that they could suffer brain damage. The backbone of care for evaluating that is really evaluating the person's ability to wake up and to be normal. He was in fact in a coma. He had lost consciousness from lack of blood flow to his brain due to the cardiac arrest. He had been intubated, meaning a breathing tube had been put in the emergency department, and then sedated until he arrived in the ICU.
Sabrina and their kids waited by his side. Doctors and team members checked in constantly, updating the family, answering questions. Members of the hospital security team even brought them gift cards and joined them for coffee in the lobby when they needed a break. Over those long days, they weren't just hospital employees anymore. They became the people Sabrina leaned on.
I promised to her that we were going to do the best we could for Jason and for her family. It's very difficult for us to know early on whether a person will recover from a neurologic injury from a cardiac arrest, or even if a neurologic injury has occurred.
For days, there were no signs. And then slowly, small changes.
Small improvements began, and we continued supportive care in hopes that he would continue to make a recovery. In this particular case, we were very fortunate to see continued improvement.
After 2 weeks in the ICU, Jason was finally stable enough to begin the next chapter of his recovery. He moved to inpatient rehab, where he faced a new challenge: learning to move and think again.
Hey, cheese, pickle.
All right, we'll sit and take a break. You don't like the bend. Bend at your hips. Bend, bend, bend.
Therapy meant repetition: standing, stepping, lifting, relearning.
Just making do.
Dr. Martin Setlift helped him through it.
So when Jason arrived us on our rehab unit, he had obviously sustained a pretty significant brain injury. He could talk some. He was still very confused. Physically, he didn't have overt control over his body like a normal person would as a consequence from this brain injury. And so when he came to us, he could talk very little. He couldn't walk, couldn't, even do things like feeding himself.
Dr. Setlift told me the hardest part for many patients and families going through this is the pace. After an event this big, progress comes in inches, not leaps. And the work is just as mental as it is physical. Patients have to relearn their bodies, but they also have to learn how to be patient with themselves.
And a tip that I typically will share with my patients is that I don't need you to be perfect tomorrow. I need you to be a little bit better each day, because you're going to be with us for a period of time, and a little bit of work each day is going to add up to a lot of good work. And that's hopefully going to be where you're going to succeed and regain the function that you're looking for in life.
Slowly, Jason's strength returned. His speech improved. His balance came back. He started walking, at first with therapists on either side holding his arms, then with a walker, then by himself. For Sabrina, these moments of progress felt less like surprises and more like confirmations. She had held a quiet certainty from the beginning, a sense deep down that he was still there, waiting for his body to catch up.
had this feeling that he was still there just by being in the room with him all day, doing things with him, spending time with him, that he wasn't gone yet. And we just kept praying and praying and praying. And each day he would get better and do different things. And we just kept praying.
Those prayers became a rhythm in her life, quiet reminders of the faith she carried. Faith in the people surrounding them, faith in Jason's spirit, and ultimately, faith in a God she believed was steering them through the darkest hours.
God has took control of the situation, and he is here today because of God. Was one, Dr. Bro, she did his last EEG. And she found that he had some brain waves, and she said, give him some time. And we gave him time, and he started getting better.
Those small daily improvements added up for one big day. On May 22nd, 67 days since he suffered his heart attack, Jason did something not many people thought he would ever be able to do. He walked out of Our Lady of the Lake. Jason received a hero's walk, something reserved for special occasions at the hospital. As the Rocky theme song played from the hospital speakers, physicians, nurses, security coworkers, and team members lined the halls as Jason was being discharged, cheering on the colleague who had fought for months to achieve this moment.
When I saw Jason walk out of this hospital, it was truly a miracle. And to be able to see him, be able to look at everybody around and wave and see the excitement on everybody's face, it meant a lot.
Mark walked beside his friend and security team colleague during those first steps out of the hospital. To him, this moment is a perfect example of why he joined Our Lady of the Lake to be a part of something bigger.
We heal people. We get people back on their feet. We get their lives back to them. And that was the main concern, that when I realized that he had a pulse again, it made me realize that, hey, we have a second bite of the apple. All our prayers were answered. We're going to be able to give Jason a second chance.
The moment also meant a lot to the team members who helped care for Jason along the journey, from the very beginning to the very end. Dr. Feigley.
In the emergency room, we typically don't see, don't get to follow up on patients too much. We don't usually want to see them, have to see them again. And so anytime we have a case like this or a story like this where, patient's able to walk out, it kind of boosts everybody's mood. And it's always fun to talk to the people that help care for that patient and let them know kind of and see their reaction for, how excited they are to hear that we made a big difference in someone's life like that.
Dr. Setliff.
And it was inspiring for me to know that, one, I work at a place like this, and then two, just to be able to see Jason and have his wife, who I got very close with throughout this process, and knowing that he has kids at home too, that he wants to see and he wants to hug. And he got to do that. He got to get home and resume life. It's inspiring to see that with hard work, support, and God's grace, that patients can overcome life-changing events and accomplish all the goals that they're looking for.
Since being discharged in May, Jason continues to come to Our Lady of the Lake to continue his rehab and building on those small improvements every day. On October 11th, he got to live out one of his dreams and walk onto the field at Tiger Stadium during the LSU vs. Florida football game as Our Lady of the Lake's Go Hero, a celebration of the remarkable patients who enter the hospital on their worst days and leave victorious.
A security guard, Jason suffering massive heart attack while with good image his life, thanks to the quick action of his co-worker, Mark O'Leary, the life-saving care in the hospital team, and 2 months of determination. Jason made a remarkable recovery. He was able to walk out of the hospital. Jason is one of the most tonight.
I spoke to Sabrina in early January, 10 months after Jason's heart attack, to get an update on his recovery. What she described wasn't a sudden turnaround. It was something quieter. Progress built slowly, day by day.
He's doing really good. He's getting more where he can do things on his own. It's, of course, with help and supervision, but he's getting, a little more dependent on himself and doing things.
That independence shows up at home in the ordinary routines that once felt far away.
Yeah, he takes a shower completely by himself. He dries off, gets dressed. He can shave. He's getting where he is getting more involved in the kitchen, help cooking. Like this morning, he fixes breakfast.
But some of Jason's most important progress is happening in a place that still feels familiar, at Our Lady of the Lake. Sabrina brings Jason to visit where he once worked, to spend time with the security and dispatch team. He sits with his coworkers and reconnects with a routine that still feels familiar. But these visits aren't just social. They're therapy. Doctors want him active and engaged and to be part of the world again.
They want him to stay active. They want his mind to stay going. They don't want him just to sit at home. They want us to get back to a normal life. So I'm trying to keep him involved in that and doing things. He likes to go.
He's not officially back at work, but close enough to feel useful again. Jason's recovery is still unfolding. There are limits. There are unknowns. But every visit, every step through those hallways is a reminder of how far he's come. Not just back to the hospital, but back to himself. Thank you to Mark McGee, Dr. Mitchell Feigley, Dr. Benjamin Deaton, Dr. Martin Setliff, and especially Jason and Sabrina Moore for sharing their stories. And to all our viewers and listeners, thanks for tuning in. We'll have helpful resources linked in the show notes, and we'll be back soon with more episodes of Straight from the Source, a podcast from FMOL Health. If you have ideas or topics you'd like to hear on the show, email us at podcast@fmolhs.org.